Good morning. Thanks so much for joining us on Leon County Today with Sheriff Walt McNeil. I'm Angela Green in for Shonda Knight today. Sheriff, it is a new year with a lot of things on point for the Sheriff's Office this year.
We're excited about 2023 and the initiatives we've got going, and obviously we're trying to make sure we fight crime, our primary responsibility in our community. But in doing that, we have to deal with a number of other things, and one of those things we have to deal with is making sure that our detention facility functions in the best possible way in terms of trying to make sure that those persons who come into our facility from the streets, when they get into our, as people call it, the jail,
Right.
our detention facility, we are able to hopefully return them back to the community better than when they came to us. And that's a daunting task for us in the department of, in our detention facility, but we're working on it. We're going to make it work.
And that is a big part of the national conversation right now. What role does law enforcement play with mental health? And how do we move forward, like the aftermath, policies and practices surrounding mental health? So you've been doing this for a long time now. What kind of things have you seen shift when it comes to policies and practices?
Well, first of all, we realized several years ago that detention facilities and jails can't merely warehouse people. You can't expect to drive down crime if you put a person in an incarcerated situation and they stay incarcerated for 10, 20 years and come back, and the only thing they can come back to is a life of crime. We also realize that many of the persons, particularly in our detention facility, 40% of the persons we have incarcerated have mental health issues. And we realize that if we're not going to get in that space with these persons who are incarcerated, we're talking about less than 365 days. So our job now becomes, how do we assist our community, those resources we have in our community, connect those back to those persons who are in our detention facility so that when they do come out of our detention facility, there are resources out there ready to meet them. The major problem has been, quite honestly, Angela, just educating our community. When people realize that 100% of the persons who come to our detention facility who are sentenced to our detention facility are coming back to the community. And many of those persons, 40% of those people, have mental health problems. And so one, it's educating our community to understand. And then it's second, how do we more effectively fight crime? Well, one of the ways we do that is to not allow these persons with mental health issues to come back into our communities and be back engaged in crime. And we're very excited about what we're doing there.
And I think everything you're saying is showing us that there is not one solution to the issue.
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely. You know, I spent some time in the state system and we talked about reentry. We knew that if we were able to reduce the number of persons with mental health problems coming back into our state prison systems, we could reduce the recidivism rate of crime in our community. And that's the whole goal. The whole goal here is to keep our community safe, and dealing with these issues of mental health and with reincarceration drives down that crime rate.
And that is exactly what this show about. So I'm looking forward to tackling this topic.
Well, let's get going.
All right. Well, coming up next, we'll have more about the care, custody, and control of inmates at the Leon County Detention Facility. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Joining me now is the LCS Detention Captain Craig Carroll. Craig, give us a breakdown of the population of Leon County Detention Facility. What's going on there?
Currently, we're 90% males, 8% females, and 2% juveniles. And 91% of all of those cases are all felony cases. So that leaves just a very small, minute amount of misdemeanors.
Wow. How many of our inmates are involved with mental health problems? I talked about that earlier. I said about 40%. What's the percentage of folks out there with mental health issues?
Generally, we have over 50% that are seeking some type of treatment. Whether it be for, something as simple as positional depression just for being incarcerated and locked up, all the way up to being actual suicidal or having those ideations of suicide.
Okay. How many staff persons we have trying to deal with the mental health issues and just the general population of inmates?
We're doing pretty good on that because we've increased our staff. Yes Care, our medical and mental health provider, started a new contract back in October, and we went from 2 staff members up to, we're around 14 right now, 9 of which are full-time staff members.
Now, how much involvement do our staff have with the persons that are incarcerated with mental health issues? Explain that process to us.
I would say constant. When you start with the officer side of it, we're a direct supervision facility. So that means our officers work directly in the housing area with the inmates. They have face-to-face contact with them constantly. That's pretty much 24/7 except for when they're in bed asleep. Then the mental health staff, that's increased to where they're coming in and making constant rounds through those housing areas, specifically the confinement and the mental health areas. So that they can interview them, talk with them, even those that are to the point where they can't come out with other people, they go to them and actually go to the door and speak with them, or we bring them out to have a one-on-one conference with them.
Craig, talk for a minute about the mental health issues and the inmates that we get there, and sometimes they try to commit suicide. What's our protocol in dealing with those kind of situations?
That starts when they walk in the door. When they come in to our booking area, we've got a set of questions that we ask them and kind of get a feeling of where they're at. At that point, if we think that they may be suicidal or have those thoughts in their head, we actually refer them to medical immediately, and we place them on suicide watch, which means someone's going to be looking at them just like me and you are right now, constantly up until the time that mental health deems it appropriate for them to be released from that.
Now that's our role. We also have there in our detention facility, Yes Care is a provider that helps us with mental health issues. How did that relationship help us with dealing with a person with mental health issues?
Well, those, they're going to have one-on-one conferences with them. We have a psychologist that's going to talk with them, possibility of medications and different things like that. Group therapies, they've got a bunch of different tools in the toolbox to use to work with them.
Now, one of the things that we hear quite often is that perhaps, they get, if they were in a hospital or something somewhere else in the mental health, that would be better. But our staff there at Yes Care are extremely efficient in dealing with the mental health issues. Mm-hmm. And in fact, I believe we have a whole protocol with respect to mental health, and that involves Yes Care. How does that work?
Well, whenever we do referrals, the inmates can actually do referrals for themselves to the mental health side of the Yes Care. And then that's when it gets them started to come down and see them. There's different stages of those referrals, whether it be acute or not. Some of those things happen immediately, and some of them, they can set it down for them to come back in the next day or two to actually interview them. They actually keep them on a rolling calendar to come back and see them.
Just like the hospitals do here in our community.
Yes.
Thank you, Captain. Just ahead, we talked with one of LCSO psychologists about helping inmates battling mental illness. Stay with us. We're back with Dr. Joyce Carbonell, psychologist and LCSO mental health ombudsman. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Dr. Joyce Carbonell.
I am a clinical psychologist, and for many years I was a professor at FSU. I still do critical incident stress training for law enforcement, and I got started in this because I was a psychologist in college and wanting to go to graduate school, and I was interested in working with severely mentally ill people. And then I happened to run into someone from a law enforcement agency, a federal law enforcement agency, who gave me a job while I was in college.
You do the job of ombudsman for the Leon County Sheriff's Office.
Yes.
Describe, what is that? What is an ombudsman?
An ombudsman is someone who sort of takes a larger role. I look around, I see if there are problems. There's no limit. If I go to the captain and say, I think this is a problem, it's not out of my, no one will say that's out of your area. Yeah. So we have many mental health people now working in the jail. And so my job's slightly different, is I'm sort of looking at things and saying, could we do this differently? Okay. Is there a better way to do this? And so to that end, I research a lot of the available programs from out of state, from other countries. Norway has very good jails, by the way.
Okay.
And
I know.
and the Cook County Jail has a mental health template that I've been looking at, because these are a lot of things that we could probably institute here that would make conditions better in the jail. And like you said, we want people to come out of the jail better than they went in.
Absolutely.
Because otherwise they keep coming back. So we want to do what we can to do that. And if we do that, we're not only making it better for the inmates, we're making it better for the staff. It's a very stressful job.
Now, let's talk about this just a minute. The ombudsman,
Yes.
would you say that that's a job where you actually are the advocate for the inmates? Is that what you are?
To some extent, yes, but I'm also an advocate for the staff. I'm starting to do training for the staff. And eventually I'd like to do some, resilience training. It's a very stressful job. And it's stressful for everyone. So anything that we can do to relieve that, and anything we can do to improve slightly the mental health conditions of the inmates, and even for inmates who do not have a labeled mental illness, it's still a very stressful environment for them, for everyone. And the better we can make that, the better it will be for staff, and the more likely people will go out and not come back. Like you said, we want them to be in better condition when they left, and that's a tall order,
Absolutely.
but we can try.
Describe for us what's your day like as a ombudsman in the Leon County Detention Facility?
It's totally different every day. And it depends on who happens to come to me and say, what do you do about this? Or how do I do that? And I'm starting to look at what are they looking at in booking, because a big concern for almost all jails is suicide.
Right.
And the suicide rates are high. It's partly the conditions and partly that huge number of people who have a mental health problem and then in a stressful situation. So I'm looking at different possible kinds of screenings that could be done, not just when the person comes in, but on the units. And it would give you sort of a better continuing picture of what's going on, and can be done by a correctional officer.
You're there with YesCare, which is our
Yes.
mental health provider and our medical provider.
Right.
Talk about that relationship real quickly.
They have an enormous job to do. I mean, they're providing services for, a population of about 1,500 people?
Yes.
Yeah. And they are constantly working. And I don't want to, I go with them some places when they do things so I can see what's going on. We visited booking together so we could look at the way booking is happening. Particularly for me, I wanted to see if there was anything we could do to change that and improve that a little bit, and I'm looking at some things there. And they do the daily grit. They get in there, they see all of the inmates that need help, and they follow up with them. I mean, I have followed them around, and they do an amazing amount of work.
Well,
They
Joyce,
really
thank you. That's what you're there to do, is to follow them around and make sure they're doing the right things. Thank you so much. And just ahead in our Deputy on Duty segment, LCSO Recruitment Sergeant is making new community connections every day. Stay tuned.
On this episode of Leon County Today's Deputy on Duty, we're on the job with LCSO's law enforcement recruiter, Sergeant Sean Edwards.
I'm actually getting that opportunity to play an important part in shaping the agency for years to come.
Edwards is a Marine veteran. He started his career with LCSO in 2003 and has served in several units, which include detention facility housing and medical security, 3 tours on uniform patrol, school resource, the warrants unit. Edwards also served as an Explorer advisor, a detective in the property crimes unit, and served most recently as a field training officer, too.
That's how I like to say I'm having fun with it, because if you're having fun, you're not necessarily believe you're working.
Now, he's accepted the challenge of recruiting the best and brightest candidates to join the Leon County Sheriff's Office.
I'm the agency recruiter. I have the best opportunity in the world to affect change. I can actually go out and have a hand in bringing those individuals I think that will help our agency, those good individuals, the good candidates. I don't have to sit back and wait and see what type of candidate shows up.
Sergeant Edwards explains he takes pride in his new role, so much so you can say he's a walking billboard for the agency. Every day is different, and recruiting is a nonstop job.
You never know who you may come in contact with, who you may meet. I have a truck, I have a vehicle. That's my picture on it. It says we're recruiting. I could be at a stoplight. Someone looks over, hey, roll my window down. Hey, how do I get a job? Well, guess what? Call this number. It comes directly to me. Hey, we can talk. We'll talk. We'll see about getting you a job.
And with so many changes in today's workforce, Edwards says recruiting for law enforcement is truly challenging and comes with some unique obstacles. But he's the perfect person for the job because he's truly never met a stranger.
So you have to also look at your audience, and you have to speak to your audience.
And that's the key to his success. He takes every opportunity to tell his own story and finds unique ways to connect with future job applicants, no matter the setting.
What got you into this? You know, man, I was kind of a wayward juvenile. Okay. You know, so I had a lot of interaction with law enforcement, believe it or not. But, you know, I went to the Marine Corps for 10 years, you know, and it got me right, got the discipline that I needed. And so when I got out, it was kind of like a natural attraction to law enforcement.
On this day, Sergeant Edwards was attending LCSO's Hispanic Resource Festival and took the opportunity to learn more about an 18-year-old barber student and potential future prospect.
I'm going to give you one of my cards, you know, and I mean, it has the website and stuff, but it also has my direct number.
Edwards says making connections like this is priceless, and it's also a chance to help bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community.
So you can get someone anywhere, it does not matter. And I'm the type of recruiter, I enjoy what I'm doing. I'm very engaged.
Sergeant Edwards says being focused and engaged is part of his legacy of his 2-decade career in law enforcement. So when he's having those conversations, he knows exactly how to steer them back to just how rewarding a career like this has been to him and his family.
I would say the younger generation are interested in the technology, interested in, you know, what type of equipment am I going to get? The $1 million question everyone wants to know. How much are we going to get paid? You know, things like that. As you move up in an older generation or a veteran, they're more interested in pay, interested in equipment, but they are more than often than not interested in benefits.
As far as what's next for Sergeant Edwards,
I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm gonna keep on going, but nothing is forever. There's gonna be one day when, you know, I hang up my gun belt.
he says it's still way too early to think about retirement. His goal now is to do all he can to attract people just like you to come over and start their career with the Leon County Sheriff's Office.
Because people think you have to go to big hiring expos, or I have to go down to an academy to get a person. A person could be walking along the street right now and just decide that they've always been thinking about it, but today is the day. I'm actually gonna do it.
Or if you know someone who could be a good fit for the Sheriff's Office, encourage them to reach out to Sergeant Edwards right now. You can find details on our website, leoncountyso.com. For Leon County Today, I'm Angela Green. Welcome back, Sheriff. That episode with Sean was just amazing. I always say with Sean, you never know who he's going to meet and the impact he's going to have because he's just that type of person.
Well, Sean Edwards, Sergeant Edwards is a unique person, first and foremost, and he has the right personality. He has that military bearing. He has that professional demeanor about himself. He's always sharp in that uniform, and he's easy to talk to. He can approach people and get in a conversation very easily and put people at ease. And I'm excited about the number of persons he's already recruited to come and work with the Leon County Sheriff's Office and our detention facility and on road patrol. So
And
we're excited about him.
To me, that kind of ties back to the role that law enforcement officers play with people. And, you know, you never know, I would say, the mental health of somebody when you approach people. But I think it's important for everybody to understand everything we've been talking about today. I would say don't be intimidated by the uniform. Be open. And two, as people, just be open-minded to help us do our jobs.
Well, that's the message to our citizens out there. Obviously, also send a message to our deputies and law enforcement. That is our most effective tool is our appearance when we show up, and then how we speak to people. It's absolutely important. And again, we're talking about our recruiter and the manner in which he does that can be emulated by other people in not only in our industry, but citizens themselves. Because you're interacting with a deputy or a police officer, what you say and how you come across to that deputy makes all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. 2023, this is another year of service for us. So I hope everybody picks up on that and help us just fight crime.
Yeah, we want to be all in, right?
We do, all in. So thanks, Sheriff, and thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next week right here on Leon County Today.